Hello, Mr. Kok Ping Soon. Thank you for your time to attend our show.
Thank you for having me on the interview.
This is the seventh time for SBF to attend the CIIE. Why does the SBF pay much attention to the CIIE?
CIIE is a very important platform because it reflects China's commitment to open up and to draw in more foreign investors. And CIIE is also particularly important for Singapore because it reaffirms the bilateral relations and our joint commitment to strengthen bilateral trade and relations. So SBF continues to pay a lot of attention on this CIIE.
Would you like to share some achievements of the previous expos?
Last year, we were able to manage to secure about 120 million of sales for our exhibitors, and we concluded over 13 MOUs. So those were an all-time high. And this year, we continue to hope to do more, to get more companies to be quite successful in this aspect.
How many Singaporean companies will attend this year's expo?
This year, we brought 44 companies to Singapore companies to CIIE. 70% of them are repeat exhibitors. Another 30% are new exhibitors. And they cut across all three halls in consumer goods, in food and agricultural products, as well as in trade in services. And many of the new participants and new exhibitors this year are actually small and medium enterprises. And we're starting to see a trend of Singapore companies, not just in the traditional food and beverage business, but even in the high-tech areas such as biotechnology. One of the notable companies that we have brought this year is a biotech company that has developed a blood-based cancer screening solution for stomach cancer. They have gotten their registration trial done in China and are looking to partner with Chinese hospitals to introduce it in China. Because it's not a very nice thing to know, but actually China has a tremendous market because about 660 million people are eligible for early stage screening of stomach cancer.
From the example you showed, can we have more cooperations on new technology?
I think there are lots of areas to cooperate in the new technologies. So beyond biotechnologies I talk about, there's tremendous opportunities to participate in the development of a smart economy even in China. So some of the companies include RMA contract. They are in the business processing outsourcing, and they'll be using CIIE to announce a partnership for them to enter the Tianjin Eco-City to support the increasing number of companies who are looking to set up operations there, but don't want to deal with the back end of HR, finance, as well as IT.
Through the CIIE, what are the Singaporean companies looking for?
Singaporean companies are, of course, looking for investment opportunities and partners to penetrate the Chinese domestic market. But actually, many of our Singapore companies feedback to us that coming to CIIE also allow them to connect to other buyers outside of China. I have a very good example. One of our local homegrown beverage company, Yo Yap Sing, they participated in CIIE last year and they will hook up to importers from Middle East. And as a result, they have now expanded and their products are now available in Middle East because of the connection they found at CIIE.
We talked through new technology, and can we have more cooperation on finance?
Certainly. I think that is a big area of growth between the two countries. I think the financial center in Singapore is very well developed, and so is China, particularly in Shanghai. They were looking forward to more collaboration between the financial institutions to ease the flow of money, as well as multi-currency exchange between the two countries. That is one growth area which we certainly hope we can do much more in the coming years.
From your perspective, what role will the CIIE play in enhancing global trade and multilateral cooperation?
Well, as I mentioned, CIIE is a platform that shows that China is opening up and continues to attract foreign investments. So it's important that we continue to participate in this. And particularly, as the world turns into greater protectionistic measures and as more tariffs comes up, I think it's important for more countries to participate in this to show to the world that actually freer flow of trade, goods and services, and the entire transformation of China from a producer economy to a consumer economy is not just good for China, but also good for the world.
Do you think China is still a popular destination for Singaporean companies to invest? Why?
It is. I think based on our survey, China is one of the top 3 countries where Singapore companies have a presence. And we asked them what are the markets they are keen to expand into. China continues to be among the top 3. So I think our businesses take a very long-term view of developments in China. Of course, there will be up and down as in any economic cycle, but it's important, and our businesses recognize that it's important that they have a presence in China to continue to show their commitment and more importantly, even take the down cycle to innovate and to customize their products to better suit the Chinese taste.
China is committing to high-level opening up. What does this trend will bring to Singaporean companies?
I think as China commit to open up and continue to open up its various sectors, there will be opportunities, as I've said, for Singapore companies beyond the traditional trade in goods and services. And one good example is the recently conclusion of significant negotiations between ASEAN and China. So we're going to see an upgraded version of the ASEAN-China FTA. And when we look at some of the areas, it has moved beyond cooperation in trade in goods and services. It's covering the digital economy, it's covering the sustainability, it's covering supply chain, it's also covering consumer protection. And these are all new areas that is emerging. There's lots of opportunities that benefit Singapore companies.
China and Singapore are important partners. So how do you think about China-Singapore trade relation?
I think the relationship between Singapore and China is not just important, it is strategic. As you know, just last year, Singapore and China upgraded our relationship to one that is all around high quality, forward-looking partnership. And the relationship is both long and very deep. In fact, this year, we just celebrated 30 years of cooperation between Singapore and China in the Suzhou Industrial Park. And that is a very good example of how even over 30 years, it has moved from just a place to attract foreign investments to now as a place to attract high quality investments in biotech, in semiconductors, so on and so forth. And beyond the Suzhou Industrial Park, now there are two other government-to-government projects in the Tianjin Eco-City as well as the Chongqing Connectivity Project. So I think that relationship is very long, very deep, and Singapore is one of the top countries in ASEAN for trading between Singapore and China.
Actually, besides Suzhou, Tianjin, and Chongqing, Singapore and the Great Bay Area also have more cooperations in the past few years. So how do you think about the Great Bay Area?
I think Singapore will continue to pursue opportunities in China, depending on where the Chinese government feels there are opportunities. Greater Bay Area is certainly coming up as an area of increasing focus, but we have to go where business opportunities are. And in fact, we are seeing opportunities there. And in January, we will be leading a business delegation to Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area to further entrench cooperations between the two cities.
Do you think how can China and Singapore promote regional development?
I think Singapore and China can work together with many like-minded countries to promote and continue to talk about the importance of keeping borders open and continue to talk about free trade. So I talk about the ASEAN-China FTA upgrade, which is a very good example. Another opportunity is to plug in China into the other multilateral platform, such as the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. The more like-minded countries come together and talk about trade flows between the two, not just in goods and services, but in the new area, as I mentioned, in digital economy, in green economy, that would be a big impetus to help bring the global engine of growth continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. Singapore is a hub for China's enterprises going global. So do you have any suggestions for Chinese enterprises?
We continue to want to encourage Chinese enterprises to look at Singapore as their global hub outside of China. I think it makes sense for Chinese enterprises to continue to have operations in China to focus on the China big domestic market. But as Chinese enterprise get out of China, I think Singapore is a very natural hub, not just to serve the Southeast Asia, but to serve the world. That's because of the very good infrastructure that we have, the very good intellectual property regime we have, and the fact that Singapore is also a base for many US companies, Japanese companies, and European companies. So we encourage Singapore enterprises to come to Singapore, to hub out of Singapore to serve Southeast Asia as well as the greater region.
Mm-hmm. So what areas can we deepen cooperation in the future?
Between Singapore and China?
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned a few areas. One is joint investment in third countries. Bilaterally, I think the opportunities in digital economy as well as in green economy is clearly the area. In the digital economy in particular, I think there's a lot of synergy between what we are doing in Singapore for Smart Nation as well as China's digital economy. And one practical example is how can we facilitate trusted data flow between commercial enterprises.
Looking ahead, do you think the US election will influence China-Singapore relation?
I think clearly we have to see what the results pan out, whether there will continue to be the increase in protectionistic instinct, or there's a chance for it to hold still or for it to reverse. A more protectionistic America, will certainly affect China. And for a small open economy like Singapore, in fact, the trade flow in Singapore is equal to 3 times our GDP. We're especially vulnerable to some of these external shocks. But notwithstanding whatever that's happened in the US, I think we got to focus on strengthening what we can, strengthening our domestic sector, strengthening the capabilities we have, and work with like-minded countries to continue to encourage trade and investment flow. So if the globalization is not happening at the pace that we want, at least we have multiple smaller regions cooperating together, and maybe we can get out of it still in a good way.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for your time too.